Why have we come to earth? Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
And good morning again. I love this time of year because of the festivals of light. You know, we just kind of honored one, the Bodhi Day, which happens on Tuesday, which is the celebration of the enlightenment of the Buddha. And of course, tomorrow, for those many of you know, is the first day of the Festival of Lights in the Jewish tradition, Hanukkah. And we'll kind of honor that next Sunday because it goes for 8 days, whereas the Bodhi Day is 1 day, so I had to catch that this week. But we do have the Jewish menorah over in the window there to symbolize the 8 days of Hanukkah. And then what we're also working with this whole month is the idea of Advent. And so this is the second Sunday of Advent. And if you remember right, Advent means to prepare, it means coming. There is that something that is coming. And so we are in preparation for that which is, what is coming in this season is the birth or rebirth of light. And of course, we, being good metaphysicians, look at that birth or rebirth of light happening not out there, but in here within us. And so we're preparing our consciousness, our ground, if you will, to receive and to be fully present with that birth of the light within. So last Sunday we celebrated the idea of hope. The first Sunday of Advent is about hope. And of course, any of you who've been in religious science for a long time know that Ernest Holmes considers hope somewhere close to a four-letter dirty word. And so he actually prefers faith and expectancy and really knowing something. So we're transferring that hope into a faith or into a knowing and into creating an expectancy of a greater expression of light than ever before within us. See, no matter what we've experienced before, I love it because one of the teachings that Ernest talks about and a couple of other people talk about is principle is not bound by precedent. God doesn't care what came before. We can open up to more of it than ever before. It's all on. It's like having a light that's fully on and we only let part of it in, right? And so we can let as much of it in this year as we want to. It doesn't matter how many times we didn't in the years previous. We can right this second, right now, let it in. So that's what we're working with, is that consciousness that lets even more light than ever before in. So that moves us to week 2, and I'm going to invite our practitioner to come up and light our candles, both of hope for last year, and today is the candle of love. This is the week that we look at love. Thank you. So love is the universal givingness. It's been said that God is love. One of the quotes that turned me around or really resonated with me, struck me, hit me in the head one time years ago when I first read it was by the New Thought writer Emily Cady, who in the early part of the last century had this wonderful phrase or writing. She said, "God is not loving." Now you don't expect that from a New Thought writer, do you? God is not loving. She said, God is not a being that is loving. God is the love itself. God is love. And so love, God is that universal givingness. And since God is love, all it can ever express is love. And since you and I are one with God, you and I are emanations of that love. We are, at our core, pure love. That's who you and I are. Look at the person next to you and say, "You are love." You are love. We got everybody covered back there? You in the very back there, you're love. Me too. So all we ever want is love. Everything in the universe is just love. If God is all there is and God is love, then everything at its core is love. And so everything that we've ever asked for, everything that we've ever wanted, in whatever form it is, it's still love. And so whether it's the form of people, whether it's the form of a wonderful home, whether it's the form of money, whether it's the form of creative ideas, a career that we love, or anything else, at the bottom of it, if you really get to it, if you really go deep into it, it's a form of and an expression of love. And so if you'll apply love, if we apply love as we apply love to whatever it is we want, we're working with Christian D. Larson in Diana's class, in the Mastery of Self class, and he talks about will and desire. That desire is for love. That desire is love. Okay? And so if we apply that to everything, it helps in the manifestation, because then we're applying what it is that we truly want to manifest into that. So the nature of this light that we're looking to have reborn within us is love. That's the nature of it. It's being reborn within us. And since the nature of that light is love, we must become love. If we want to prepare the ground, if we want to open to that light being more fully born within us, we must become that love. We must become more loving, and we have to build our consciousness of love. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is we desire it. We call it forth. We say, yes, I do want this. Have you ever met people who say, I don't want no more love. I don't want no stinking love. Okay? They're lying, right, to themselves mostly. But you meet people like that, right? So first we have to desire it. And we apply our power of choice, our will, and our desire to being the place where that light of love is reborn. Am I willing to both desire it and choose it? Am I willing to both desire and choose to be that place where that light is reborn, to be that ground? So take a breath with that and allow that in. Next, we have to invest our love, our time, and our attention to it. In a way, we woo the divine light like we would a lover. When you're first in love, when you're trying to woo somebody, how many people have done this? Hopefully all of you at some point in time in your life. Okay? Or you've been wooed. Anybody who, okay? And a few people. And how many of you, even if you haven't experienced it, you kind of have an idea what it would be like if you haven't? I was watching your hand, Sylvia. So we woo the divine lover. We woo that divine lover within us. And while the lover is always present, we have to get ourselves out of our own consciousness of lack and blockage and into the habit of seeing and being with it. See, we can't woo the lover if we're not willing to let it in. We have to let that love in. Cynthia and I were just having this discussion this morning, early. And one of the things I've become aware of is a certain layer for myself of where I don't let love in. And so it's being willing to go through that layer. How many of you have ever had a person that you try and love them and they won't let it in? Okay? And how many of you don't have to put your hands up, but you may have been that person, or at a point in time where you were that person who couldn't let it in. And so we have to be willing to let that love in. We have to be willing to let the light in. And if we sit here and say, oh, I don't deserve it, or it's not interested in me, or it's just little old me, whatever, all that stuff, that pushes it away, and that doesn't open us up to being fully in the light. And so today, being in that love is I love myself enough to let the light be fully reborn within me. Say that with me. I love myself enough to let that light be fully born within me. And so having that consciousness. See, God took the time and the energy, and is taking the time and the energy to be you right here, right now. If you weren't necessary to the infinite presence, you wouldn't be here. By here, I mean on this planet, in existence. So just take that in for a moment. God wants, needs, desires you to be here. You don't have to know why. Just know that that's so. And just take that in. So we must enact the nature of the divine. And that's the giving of love and the receiving of love. If we want to be playing in this field of love, we have to give and receive love. It's not enough to just give, and it's not enough to just receive. We have to be playing that in-breath and the out-breath of the universe, of giving it and receiving it to be in alignment with the divine. One of the most powerful ways of giving that love is serving. For those of you who have been working with the 40-day Mind Fast Soul Feast, and by the way, if you didn't get your book last week and you ordered it, it's in the bookstore now. And if you would like to catch up with us, there's extra copies in the bookstore right now. But we're using this as our book to go through the Advent season, to take us through into the early part of January as a daily practice, a daily set of meditational guides. And so in day 3, Michael Beckwith talks about stop working and start serving. Stop working and start serving. When we're in the attitude of working, we tend to be in the attitude of suffering to get something. Right? Many of you have gone to work, which is the interruption to you doing what you really want to do for the day and the week, right? And you look forward to Friday night, or you have. You've been in that place of I go to work, and finally I get to have Friday night TGIF. Yeah. Right. Whereas if we go to whatever we're doing to serve and say, how can I go serve today? Do you feel the different energy? How can I go serve? I used to years ago work for Amazon.com. I was a buyer in the consumer electronics section. And I, being a good metaphysician, wanted to recreate how I did that. So it wasn't just a job that I went to. And I had this visual that I was sort of like, at the gates of consciousness, the gates of heaven, if you will, whereas people would send prayers, and somebody would answer that prayer with something, with an object, okay? And so, they would send the prayers called orders, and my job was to make sure that there was something there to send them right away. There wasn't too much, that we were overstocked, and there wasn't not enough that they had to wait and delay, because you don't know how you feel when your prayers get delayed, right? Okay, that's how I feel too. So, I made it into that. It's like, how can I serve these people who want to order whatever it is that we have to sell today? And it made it fun. It made it a spiritual practice. It was a whole different consciousness than a lot of the people I was with who were just, I'm here to put in my 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours for Amazon, today. So how can we serve? How can I? And the attitude of serving is I'm giving from my abundance of love. When I'm serving, I feel whole, and I'm giving from my abundance of love to you. See, Diana introduced today the people who are in service, and every Sunday there are people who are in service, both during the Sunday and behind the scenes. We have people who come in and clean this building. Sherry Miller's, wonderful cleaning crew. Sherry, raise your hand. Thank you. Yes. This past Wednesday, I saw Roy Wolfstead blowing in the leaves and then carrying leaves in a wheelbarrow down into there. And I thought about it yesterday because we pulled in and looked at the leaves underneath the trees, and you would have not known that he had done a single thing because so many more had dropped. But I'm here to testify, and several people saw it happen, that yes, he was blowing and carrying and moving leaves out. We have people who do that. We have people who just do that out of blessed service. And so I really appreciate that. So it's that idea of giving of yourself. The Hindus call it seva, giving of yourself, God serving God. So it's just serving the infinite as the infinite. And we can't outgive the universe. We cannot outgive the universe. Do you know that? Do you know that? If you don't know it, there's only one way you can know it. It's try to outgive the universe. Try to outgive the universe. So true seva, true service is done with love. And what that looks like is it's done without complaint. It's done without attention to what we don't have, and it's done without belief that it should be different. Something should be different than it is now. So we just serve. We just serve. I'm here to be of service in the best way that I can. And so we move from getting And the consciousness of what can I get to what can I give. Michael Beckwith asked the question in an interview that I saw with him, what would happen if our entire economy was based on a giving economy rather than a getting economy? What would that be like in the world if we were looking at what can we give rather than what can I get? And so what I know is we can start that economy within our own lives. We can start being the place that embodies that here and now. Because guess what? We're participants in the current economy. And so we can start to shift the consciousness of the economy by asking the question, what am I here to give? There's one other way I want to invite you to practice love during this time. And this comes from a wonderful book that I just started reading. It's a book we're looking at for Prac 2 in this next term, called Being an Adult, something like Being an Adult in a Relationship. I brought it home, and Cynthia looked at me and she says, you mean you're finally going to start? I said, yeah, I kind of thought I'm better. Actually, I told her I was going to start, so she's much nicer than that. So there's 5 A's to practice in being of love, and I invite you to take these in and look and practice these this week in your relationships with the world. The first one is attention. Giving attention. Have you ever been with a person, you're talking with them, and they're kind of looking around, and what's happening behind you and around them and stuff like that? Okay, do you feel like they're giving you your attention? And then you've been with a person who you're the only person in the world at the moment. And you feel like they're giving you their attention. And the two feel quite different, don't they? So giving attention, paying attention to whoever or whatever you're with. It's the core practice in Zen Buddhism. There's a story, I've told it before, about the young monk who's walking along with a teacher, and he says, what's the secret to enlightenment? And the teacher says, attention. And the monk says, well, yes, I know that attention is the first step, but what comes after attention? And the teacher says, the first step is attention. The second step is attention. The 100th step is attention. And the monk says, well, in that case, what do you mean by attention? The teacher says, excellent question. By attention, I mean attention. Another way that a friend of mine described her, she was studying in Southeast Asia with a meditation teacher, and they were out walking in a field, and all of a sudden the meditation teacher went, tiger! And she just jumps, and he says, that's the attention you need when you're meditating. That's the attention you need when you're meditating. Do we pay attention? Do we give that attention? So that's the first A, is attention. The second one is acceptance. The Buddhists call it the glance of mercy. Will I accept you for who you are? That doesn't mean I have to like what you're doing or even like you, but will I accept you for who you are? Will I accept the situation for what it is? We receive respectfully each person as they are. Ernest Holmes says we have to be aware of the condition before we can change the condition. We don't deny the condition exists. If we get a diagnosis, we have to at least accept that's the diagnosis. We can then go about changing it. If we look in our checkbook and don't like it, we have to accept that's what the case is before we can go change it. So it's a case of acceptance. Will I accept each person that I see, each situation that I encounter for what it is and who it is? The third step to applying love then takes acceptance deeper, and it goes to appreciation. I admire, value, or delight in you. A wonderful practice of appreciation is gratitude. During the silent retreat yesterday, we did a portion of that, where we were walking in the labyrinth, just practicing gratitude as we walked the labyrinth. Just being in gratitude. And noticing if there was anything we couldn't be in gratitude for. So can I be in gratitude? Can I be in appreciation for each person I meet? And especially as the Dalai Lama might say, our sacred friends, right? We have friends and then we have sacred friends. The sacred friends for him are the Chinese government, the ones who kicked him out of Tibet. Okay? We all have sacred friends, right? Okay. Can we still be in appreciation for them? The fourth one is affection. Appropriate affection, of course. And it's the idea or the quality of being a near and a loving presence. Can I just be a loving presence with the person that I'm being with the situation that I'm being with? Can I have affection for it? And then the fifth A is allowing. I allow people to be who they are. You ever met somebody who was constantly wanting to change you? Who did not allow you to be who you are? Some of us grew up with parents like that, right? The fun thing is as the parents get way older and we get to be the adults, and we get to do the same thing to them and not allow them to be who they want to be. But anyways, will we allow people and situations to just be as they are? Again, it doesn't mean we have to agree with them. It doesn't mean we don't work to, if we see, like Michael was talking about, the situation with the planet, with the environment, we don't work to change it. But we also, can we just allow it to be what it is right now? Even as we're working to change it. It's an interesting dance. So those are the 5 practices of love I would invite you to play with this week. Attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. So during this week, that's our first practice. There's 3 practices we're going to do. That's the first week. Can I practice love? Can I practice being a loving presence? Practice those 5 A's and bring them in. Secondly, practice giving this week. Giving of your time, giving of your money, giving of your service, giving of your love, find something to give this week. And begin giving from that seva consciousness as God giving to God. Can I practice giving? Can I do it without complaining and criticizing? Complaining, just in case you want to know, my definition of complaining is this person does something to offend me, so I go talk to this person about this person offending me. Because this person can't do anything about that person offending me, and this person doesn't know that I'm offended and doesn't know how to stop or change. Okay? Complaining is not going to this person and saying, I was offended when, or I was upset when, you and I had this experience, this interchange. Can we find a different way to do that? Can we find a way to resolve that? See, that's not complaining. That's going to the person who did something and trying to resolve the situation. Do you notice the difference? Okay. We used to, on retreats in Seattle, we went to a retreat center that we were supposed to bring towels along for ourselves. They didn't provide towels. And inevitably, somebody would forget their towel. And so then the test was to see, would they go to complain to other people, oh, this place doesn't have any towels. Why doesn't this place provide towels? They should provide towels, Or did they ask somebody, do you have an extra towel that I could borrow? Or did they go to the manager and ask, do you have any extra towels? I forgot mine. And the place had a few towels. They just didn't have enough to cover all of us. Okay? So do you go to somebody who can actually resolve the problem for you? That's resolution. Or do you go complain to somebody who can't do anything about it? Okay? So that's our second. Practice giving. Just giving. And finally, 3, contemplate. Take time to contemplate the love of God. What does that mean to you? What does that feel like in your body, in your mind, in your whole being? And open to its growth in your life. To just be willing to open to more of God's love showing up in your life. How many of you would like that? More of the experience of God's love in your life. Okay? So that's your practices, 3 practices this week. Practice love, the 5 A's, practice giving, and then contemplate the love of God. Are we good for that as a spiritual practice this week? Great. So that's our preparation during Advent. Those, keep on reading through this book. We're on day, which if you want to know what day we're on, just look at the calendar. We're on day 6 today. So I want to close with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, keeping with our little Buddhist theme. He says, the fourth practice of right thinking is called bodhicitta, our mind of love, which is what that means. Our mind of love is the deep wish to cultivate understanding in ourselves in order to bring happiness to many beings. I'll say it again. Our mind of love is the deep wish to cultivate understanding in ourselves in order to bring happiness to many beings. It is the motivating force for the practice of mindful living. With bodhicitta as the foundation of our thinking, everything we do or say will help others and ourselves to be liberated. So this week I invite you to practice that love, to practice that being liberated, because that love liberates you, because that love moves us beyond all this other stuff and into the true nature of who we truly are. So I invite you to move into that love. And as we move into prayer, we take a moment to breathe in that divine presence, to breathe in that one infinite love, to recognize that that is indeed all that there is. One presence, everywhere present. Infinite love. And then to recognize that because it is infinite, each of us, I am, you are, each of us is God. And each of us is love. Each of us is this infinite love. We are expressions of that love. And so I speak my word, just that we open up and recognize that truth. That we feel that truth this season more deeply than ever before. We are willing to say yes to that love that resonates through every cell of our bodies, every molecule, every atom, every subatomic particle, and all the space in between. That resonates through every aspect of our beingness. We are love. And recognizing that as we do so, it liberates us. It liberates us from the darkness. It liberates us from the pain. It liberates us from the fear. It liberates us from our past hurts. It liberates us. And so we simply open to that love and allow it to bless us, and then through us to bless this world. And in great gratitude, I simply say, let it be, and so it is. Thank you.
To love, serve.